And good morning. We're going to see how all this actually works out. I did upgrade OBS. Is it Thursday already? Happy Thursday, everyone. All right. Why didn't the shrimp share? Because he was shellfish. But no, I don't even have like chat set up this morning. I restarted the Raspberry Pi yesterday. Okay, Capitan running. So yeah, today we will be improving the proc-macros in gdnative. That is an API that lets you use Rust inside of Godot. See, it's 60.8 degrees in the office this morning. The image reminds you of Chalk Zone? What is Chalk Zone? I'll have to take a look. Now, for you other streamers out there, if you do upgrade OBS, beware. All my timers broke. And we'll see if the task switcher still works today. I hope it does. Overall, it looks nice. An amazing cartoon. I used to watch this kid. This kid named Rudy has a magical chalk that talks him into the chalk zone. Okay. Sounds cool. It was so underrated. That's great. Oh, that's fantastic. Let me adjust my headset just a little. Okay. Hey, we were talking about underrated actors yesterday. Underrated cartoons. Oh, I tried to show the kids the original Transformers the other day. They were so very underimpressed. They were underwhelmed by an incredible amount. I remember it so much different than how they saw it. All right, so gdnative derive. In order to test these using the try-build system, we have to actually set up the try-build inside of the gdnative crate as opposed to the gdnative derive crate, because the gdnative derive crate creates code that is only compiles if you have gdnative available. Oh, the Hot Wheels Accelerator movie series. Oh. Oh, wow. The Hot Wheels Accelerator movie series was really underrated and was cut short by Mattel for whatever reason and left us all in a cliffhanger. That's great. Oh, goodness. You know, I wouldn't mind taking a couple minutes to see if I could get chat on screen, actually. What do people use for chat on screen? Oh, that's right. And Splunky 2 is out? One of my kids bought that yesterday with their allowance money. It was amazing. We could use... You normally just use an OBS scene. Just add the page as a browser source. Oh, I didn't want all of GitHub. Stream chat. I'll have to think about it. Read chat is better. Where is read chat? Oh, I had the hyphen in there. Okay. Let's try that. Right. macros, cargo clone. Oh my goodness, cargo is taking over my mind. Good morning, Lycan. How are ya? So I'm gonna try to do this. And I didn't set up the browser this morning, so I was having the black screen, wasn't I? Ooh, my mistake. The repo is big for dumb reasons. It's going pretty well. Going pretty well. Gonna play around a little bit with some chat stuff. And then right back into some other bits here. All right. Good. Join Mr. L. Hey, look at that. Fancy. Test. No, it still says connecting. I wonder if it's Tmux. Here, let me try it in a different term. I'm going to run it just inside of terminal instead. Or iterm. Wow, why is iterm not actually starting up? Did I uninstall it? No, it's right there. Launch bar is being a little skittish. All right. Now it says join Mr. Halsey. Test. Okay, I think this other one's a little better. You know what it could be? It could be that the width is not what it's expecting. Here, let me give it another test here. There seems to be some sort of minimum width. Alright, so I'm going to come back to the code here. I want to add another window capture. This is going to be chat. Okay. And this is going to be iTerm. Something like so. Now let's clean that up a little bit. Transform. Edit transform. I was not planning on doing this morning. Let's say crop left. Let's give it 3 off each side. Okay, but the top, we're going to do like, I don't know, what is that, 20? Oh, 30 maybe? So if I resize that, it kind of reflows. Looks like modern art. Oh. I'll set down at the bottom or something. Let's take the background away. We need a proper background color though. Appearance. Oh, no. Ah, there we go. It's under profiles. So we're going to change the background color of that to magenta. Because it deserves magenta. Now we can filter that out. I'll add a chroma key. Magenta. Oh, their magenta's different, isn't it? Oh, that and the anti-aliasing is it's clipping it still. It's really messed up. It could be that I'm running on a Mac. Actually, that window there is iTerm with no extra bells in it. So, well, I mean, it's got Starship, but other than that. Text, I want to not alias. Monaco, and let's use Fira code on that too. I mean, why not, you know? Give it some width. Perfect. Use ligatures, why not? All right, that is just a mess. That is a proper mess. It's still got that pinky color. Okay, I think the magenta colors are slightly wrong here. Let me adjust the profiles again. Colors, background color here. That's a proper magenta there. Okay, that's better. The terminal magenta was not the right color. Okay, test again. Not too bad. All right, it needs a little bit of a background on it. And wow, you are getting chroma keyed out there. It's still getting anti-aliased. Wow. I don't know, maybe black on the background. Magenta incoming. Watch out. Yeah, choose black. That's interesting, and now the white is gone. I have no idea. Crossroom is giving the wrong math. Oh no. And it looks like I have a little bit more to do with trying to cut this out. Because this chroma key is not correct either. All right, Alex Couch. Well, thanks for hanging out. I'll have to work on this. So I think I would like this to be a little bit more along the side, like over here somewhere. You know. I'll have to play with it. But for now, we're gonna get back to our task at hand, which is improving gdnative's proc-macros. That and waking up. I am still waking up. Just running in a tmux split. Oh, that'd be cool. Hmm. Okay, so what are we doing here? We were talking about gdnative. Gdnative has some proc macros. Some of the proc macros panic, and some of them produce errors that could be improved. All right, let's take a peek. Oh yeah, that looks perfect. And turn Dark Reader back on. I'm a little jealous, guys. And what did I do to screw up my tmux here? Okay, it's still there. So I went ahead and did a couple of things here. Let's quit that for a moment. I'm gonna clean up some of these terminals. I'll explain in a minute. Okay. gdnative is a series of crates, if you didn't know. It has the derived macros in this crate over here. The top level crate that you should be using is probably this one. If you need to replace bindings, I think it's this one that you have to do some stuff with. Regardless, we're going to be working with these two today. Now, most of the changes we're going to make are in the gdnative derived crate. Most of the test work is in the gdnative crate because of how the macros actually require, in order to compile, you have gdnative available. So we do a cargo test at this point. It'll go through stuff, build a bunch of stuff. You know, I probably should have gone into the gdnative crate in order to run the tests. But it's going to be good to see if everything else is still running. I added the try build to gdnative. Oh, you think you fixed it? Hey, Bluntest, how's it going? You also upgraded all the dependencies. Okay, let's check those out. All right. So while that's compiling over there, derive fails inheritance should fail to compile. Yeah, so we have a mismatch here. We have actual output and this other output. Now, I think that this, if you do not have inherit defined for this, we should not have the second piece of this error. which means that we actually have to implement native class for the thing that is broken. So having some minimalist implementation of a native class so that the error can be silenced might work here. All right, let's see. 5, connecting. Let's give that a test. Nice. Hey, look at that. Oh, very cool. Oh, that's fine, yeah. Ooh, multi-line. It was a command queuing, doing things in the wrong order than what the doc said. Oh, interesting. Gotcha. It's very close though. It is so much better. All right, now I'm gonna actually close that. We're gonna come over here. This is our dash y. I don't know, 3. There we go. Cargo run, Mr. Halsey. Let's give that another test. Test. Huh? Looks like it's working. Yay. All right. Now what if I had 2 splits? I could still do that. But it's not, you had to force it to also move to the start after I moved down. Oh, interesting. Yeah, let's give that a test. All right. So no, in this case, I was testing out these little pieces here. The default error that had been here is no inherent attribute found. Okay. And the standard error, well here, let's take a step back. In gdnative, cargo file has a dev dependency, we added try build. Okay. And then inside of the gdnative test directory, we added this file called UI. I just added UI tests. Instantiated a try build. and added a couple of elements. The first one was this file here, which we can take a quick peek at. It just has some stuff. Like this is the default sanity check. Inherits from a node. Doesn't do any extra attributes, anything like that. Okay. The other one, derive, fail, inherit, does not include the inherit line as the previous one did. So this error message should tell the user that if you are deriving native class, you should also have an inherit line. The error currently looks like this. Now, as you can see, we do have no inherit attribute found, but also at the same time we have it continued the compilation and ended up giving us another error, which might be confusing to users. Because this is saying that this class didn't implement this trait, but that's required. So, we need to figure out a way to get rid of this. The trait here is not implemented for foo. So this one here is an attribute macro, isn't it? Interesting. Whereas this one's a derive macro. Oh, that's cool. Oh, I hadn't realized that before. So either we implement it for this, right? Have some basic ones. Oh, derives can have attribute macros. Now this section of code here is separate though. So derives can have attribute macros, basically things that you put in here, right? The normal one in this case would be inherit and you'd pass in node, etc., which would be an attribute or the derive macro. But this one down here is a separate macro altogether. Or we just say that plainly and say it's a separate macro. So I think to make this cleaner to a user, I think we should toss out or basically implement some really basic native class for this. Because if they did end up getting this methods, this is just going to be a distraction. And I think that this here should be their focus. So when we do get this error, let's silence the other one. So our desired state for the error, standard error, let's go ahead and get rid of the second piece. This is what we want. No inherit attribute found. Is it possible to include like notes and help as well? I was looking and I could not find it last night. I mean, I think I remember you showing us in the, there was some other crate that did them a separate way. Not unstable. Oh, that's the diagnostics, isn't it? Oh, it's part of the span API. I did see diagnostics here. And you can have help. Note. Yeah. Proc-macros is the fake way. Okay. So if we can only provide info here, no one. Okay. Let's focus on the silencing of the other piece at the moment. So if we go to gdnative, derive, I'm pretty sure it's here, inherit, etc. So we come into here and we fail. Well, first we did a little derive input, parsing bits, and then it's actually coming into this section here and returning an error. Should probably have some sort of minimal implementation, some error implementation of that trait for this class. Let's create a function for that. We'll take a derive input and return a token stream. Token stream 2. We'll probably use it here. So instead of something like this, we would end up calling the function, which would provide enough code to silence the other error. So let's add. Which trait was it? Oh, native class. Naming things is hard. Impl empty native class. That, I think, is more accurate. We'll have the empty native class, and then we will also have the error. return error.into. Okay. Now, what does derive of that actually need? So we need class name and a init with some associated types. And we could always use some generic piece there. So we're not going to have any of this info because it didn't parse correctly. Okay, we'll have the ident off of there, implement that for that, borrow it. Now inside of here we have a couple of types, base and user data. Not sure, type user data. That's going to fail for other reasons. They're just placeholders for the moment. And then we need class name. In case it actually shows up, we want to be able to search for it. All right, and we provide some sort of init that will never get implemented. Actually, we could say that these are unimplemented. Could we do the same thing here? I mean, it's never going to get run, but the type information isn't going to be used, hopefully. We can't do that? Drat. All right, we've got a couple of these. We probably don't want to keep a reference to that, so we could just clone it. Why do we have to call into on this one? Oh, it's a drive. Yeah, that was wrong before. All right. Let's give that a test. I want to see what happens. I was saying that maybe it could be some ether type or require something that pulls native class. Do we need that for Aether? Probably. Because it needs the type info. Yeah, it still needs the type. So gdnative object, is that where object is? It's in the prelude, so gdnative API object. Where's Aether? Alright, let's see, what did we get out of this? Expected trait, found derived macro. Oh. Yes, we didn't give it the full path. It's in Prelude? Yeah, it's in Prelude. So we got the one we want. The trait copy is not implemented for foo. Oh, because of Aether. Okay, so we toss copy on there. Well, but we can't guarantee that. Local cell data? I see. Oh, awesome. Okay, so that passes. That means that we are getting just this. Just perfect. Okay. It would be nice once the help and note are actually available and stable. When do you think that's going to be? It would also produce an empty body for that type? What do you mean by that? Would we end up getting 2 structs defined for it? So if we did do that, st struct name, and we had that empty one. Oh, is this actually rewriting the struct? Oh, thank you. To check somebody's math work. Somebody's up early doing their math. All right, 1 minute. I need to check some kindergarten math. Oh, subtracting 2s and 0s and 1s. Counting by 10s. Yes, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. Looks like my wife has already looked over this too. All right. Isn't homeschooling fun? Yes. Yes. We've actually been homeschooling for a long time. So this plague didn't actually change our routine. With our first kid, we ended up moving around a bunch. He's actually sitting over there in Terraria. Oh yeah, we don't, with the derived struct, we can't actually do that, can we? So we can't replace code with a derive. We can only add code. All right. So coming back to this point, we want to have a couple more of these. So this one fails for, well, for not having that piece. Not anytime soon? Oh, that's too bad. Also like going through and looking at the milestones. Oh, that crate, the fake way, mimics the real API. Interesting. Okay. Oh, gotcha. Due by October 8th. They don't have much time. All right, stay on target, stay on target. Going to copy that test. All right, this is a terribly named test. Fail and inherit params, a little bit more descriptive, a little bit more in line with the other one. Derive, property, fail, inherit. All right, should fail, but it succeeded. What? Ah, there we go. So if we don't have that, actually, what happens if we remove this section here? Oh, it can generate those UI output files for me? Because I know that it puts them in the work in progress folder. Yeah, there we go. Puts them there. Expected attribute arguments in parentheses. Oh, nice. If you do try build overwrite. I missed that by just a little bit. Right here, let's look at the standard error again. Okay, this looks fine. Although the errors themselves, I think, could probably use a bit of help. Okay. That seems sufficient. Okay. Basically, on the first pass, do override to generate the UI spec. Gotcha. Where are those for try build? See, I'm pretty sure I have try build open. Ah, how did I not see that? Workflow. Yeah, no, I probably didn't read this far down. Yeah. Okay. Let's do one. We're going to copy that pass again. Derive fail methods. So if we do not have methods, so the error. If we take that off of there, I think it should still fail for some other reason. I forget what it is though. Oh, it succeeds. I think that other macro actually provides the export functionality. So if you had something like this, that should fail. And we can't do anything about that. And that's expected. Let's see, what other sorts of errors could we have? Basically, we could have, I guess, new missing. That's always needed. What else? Then if we have different types, I wonder if we can actually, if we can improve this error. So who's generating this error? This is after everything's gone through the macros. Something is referring to new, but it does not exist. So some of the code that this macro is creating does not have it. So if we look not at the tests at the end, down here, it says it comes from derive. Let's see. Here. Interesting. I wonder, is there some way that we can improve that? We can make new a trait method. I don't like that idea. It doesn't seem like it's coming from the right place. What if it was off of native class? Oh, that's right, and we should have used the : at the very beginning. Or was it in our... Oh, shoot. and things like tref and shared. Oh, you fixed a couple things. Control C works pretty well for me. Let's give it a fetch. Control C I think is just fine. Oh, you didn't push it? Okay. Yeah, let me know. We'll try it out. Timestamps? I don't think so. I think it's kind of clear the way it is. One of those little less is more. I'm actually a little surprised that it's not using all 3 lines here, and that it's skipping one. I'm not sure why. Is there a border? Oh, it's to do with the /n to make it scroll. Ah, gotcha. I see. I see. Oh, this is actually so much better than I thought. I mean, we looked, but I wasn't expecting to even have something this good. Like, this is fantastic, because now people on the screen that come in and look at some of the videos later have context, and that context has been missing. So, I mean, this is like a gigantic improvement. Oh, dash helpful set. Got it. Got it. So we do that. Oh, neat. So if we did like -n20, like a just a little test on there. I like the simplicity of it. I don't think we need the highlighting or anything like that. I mean, there's other screens around here that I think can get attention if need. Oh, sure. Yeah, I'm happy to test it. An infinite stream of messages of varying length. Oh, that's cool. Let's close that. Okay, those are there. But this new. We don't have any way of knowing that the function exists at this point. We could create the function, but if we create the function multiple times, isn't that going to cause issues? I haven't thought of that. Like, what happens if you... Oh, we were just doing that with, we were trying to define the struct twice. But we don't know how to construct self, which would be the problem. So even if we did fill it in, then they would have an error later. I would rather the error be at compile time and not runtime. But I don't think that we have a need for that new to be inside of the methods, because it should be possible to import foo and put new here instead. Because that there should pass. Yeah. So I don't think there's anything else that we could do with this one. But it's kind of a fun mind exercise. All right. What was the other stuff that we could kind of butcher here? User data. All right. Oh, it didn't get added here. Not that. What was it called? Fail user data. Okay, that seems fine. Let's do a fail method params one. I wonder if we should comment that these have errors in them. Oh, and it succeeded. Well, that's not good. All right, here's methods, derived methods. Okay, what's item impl? Item impl is coming out of sin. Extract the data to export the impl block. Okay, it feels like we should do either some check here or another check here. And that meta there. Probably do something with that meta. What were they doing for the other one? It was Yeah, they have this meta here. So there's this parse meta. Where is that? Looks like it's on sin. So given an attribute, you can parse meta and an attribute. Testing, debugging, etc. Alright, but how did we get the attribute? Okay. Go back some more. Good morning, pink fluffy llama. How are ya? Alright. So in this case, we have the token stream. We parse it as a derive input. What other sorts of input are there? Other than just derive input? Do they have... Alright, let's check this out. Parser functions. Attributes have their own entry point. Interesting. Am I still making macros? We're currently working on the gdnative crate. And technically, I was looking at the methods macro. So too far. So if we come back to the methods, the proc-macro attribute here, this meta token stream. What I'm curious about with the token stream there is if there is something that we can parse it into, some other sort of structure. And I think there is, I just don't remember what it was. Because once they come in here, you parse method export, which goes in and then does another parse here for item impl. But they're just ignoring the meta here. I think we should do a check to make sure that the meta is actually being parsed. Parse into meta? Okay. Cross. Got it. Fuso. Okay. Meta item. I don't know what we would do on the fail there. That's fine. Actually, in this case, we are only validating, so we're not keeping that around. Morning, Ito. Ito 66667. Happy Thursday. Path list, key value. We're currently working on the gdnative macros. So these here, so if you look at native script, where was it? It was on native class? I forget where the documentation for that is. See, I thought it was here, the top level of native script, but it's not. Alright, so if we look at the meta, or sin, so really it should be a path. We do not support list or name meta here. And really we just want nothing to be provided. You know what, let's not pull it in up here. And I don't think I answered your question very well, Ito. It's these macros here from gdnative. In this case, I would expect this one to fail if you provide extra information to it. So we're just making sure we have some failure cases covered, because we're going to be making some changes to this and we'll want to make sure that everything is working correctly after we make the changes. Alright, so in this case, we create a new error, and we should say that these elements are not expected. But for list, which would be list meta, we should say that the A and the B are not expected. So not the path, but the nested bits. Alright. So yeah, let's not do these together. Good morning, Bear Duda. How are you doing? You're off to lunch. I will enjoy your lunch. What do you got planned for lunch today? And thank you for the raid. Welcome, raiders. We're currently working on proc-macros for gdnative. Ooh, sausage and potatoes. That sounds good. Unexpected. Switch to the list. Oh, I got this wrong too. This should be sin, error, no. No, we have to call into compiler error? No. To compiler error. And an into on that. Yeah, wrong type of token stream. There we go. Gonna need a resub. Well, I appreciate it. Yeah, we've got a couple of emotes. Okay, so that one works. Now for the name value. It's gonna be just the same thing, technically. Unexpected what? These are kind of params, aren't they? In the case of meta name value, ooh, okay. So this one we have to do both of these. You look like you're writing a resume. Would you like help? That's funny. So I think we'll have to do a new span here. We're going to create a span out here, or tokens, token stream. And that's going to be name value dot, what is literal? That's the left thing. It's like foo and then equals bar over there. Or is it going to be the path? The path is on the left, isn't it? Hey, Kodafan. Welcome. Oh, thank you. Thank you for that. I see. Lit is basically just saying string here. So this here is the A equals B, foo equals bar, path equals lit. Okay. To token stream? Does that exist? Only if we pull in this. And why is this from create quote to tokens? Is this re-exporting quote? I mean, arguably we should just use quote to tokens. So we should be able to also extend that stream with an iterator of more elements here. Is it EQ token or was it just EQ? EQ token. The angry Clippy. I like angry Clippy. I like that people don't understand what it is when you use it on like other streams. Oh, actually, we probably don't need the 2 token, right? Because it'll skip that. We just want lit to token stream. Then we have that spanned. Hopefully these point to the right spots. All right. We also need to create a new one. Copy that to this. Huh. There. Unexpected end of input, expected path. Ooh, interesting. No, that's not true. All right, so we handled that poorly. This is not correct. So by parsing something with meta, it's actually giving us the wrong thing. What does meta give us? So ideally it would just be an empty token stream. Ah, there we go. Oh, that's right, they have nothing, don't they? Well, oh no, that was in the example, but we could just check to see if it's. Oh, it's in sin. Oh, I did not see that. Sin. Nothing. Oh, it is in nothing. Thank you. Args is nothing. Looks like we need the map error on that. So why couldn't it actually map it? Ah, because it needs to be a token stream. Yeah, that is a little weird. Morning, Krasink. I'm doing well, thank you. Unexpected token. Good. Ah, but now we're back to this piece here. Okay. Yeah, same with this. Basically, if something fails, we don't want to prevent. Let's go back to lib here. Yeah, when something fails, we're returning. We omit the token stream here. We don't want to do that. So if we do have an error, I actually want to return both. Am I already a proc macro ninja? I feel like a proc macro toddler. I know enough to be dangerous. And we're currently working on the gdnative derived stuff, adding some tests, and then also trying to get rid of the panics. We're going to include error there. All right, but we also need to include the input. I don't know, this is more like the input code. Oh, which panics? If you, well, so here we're in methods. None in here. I removed some already, so might be hard to find some. Let's see, there had been some over here. Unwrap or, that was okay. Unwrap or else. Oh, you're wondering what you should watch out for. I see. It's just that the error messages are, yeah, they're using panic instead of returning the errors. It's not like it's going to panic as your game is running. It's just that the error messages from the macros could be better. I should take a look at COCFCF. What is COCFCF? Yeah, weird compiler errors. Oh goodness. Got that. Got that. Got that. Now we just need this. Yeah, you forget to add the exports? Yeah. Oh yes, resume is important. I really like the resume. And FYI, everybody, these are going into the archive over here in YouTube. And I actually need some help trying to create playlists for some of the existing content. I broke them up into a couple of months. And so we have, say, streams for months worth of content, and one for going through the proc macro workshop, a playlist there. But some of the other stuff could actually use some playlist love. So I'm going to be going through and kind of trying to figure out what each one of those videos is covering and creating streams based or playlists based on that. He uses the FCF configuration in window for all the COC ugly window. So what's wrong with this? proc-macro, token stream, the tokens. Is it because of error? That's a token stream. Probably the wrong kind of token stream. Yeah, that's the other kind. Do not use this token stream. Oh, use after move. Alright, which would mean that we would have to push this into here. So this is trying to parse item impl, which is a sin thing. Interesting. I'm not sure how to improve these errors, because we need to give the code. I mean, we could clone input. Alright, let's give that a test. Hopefully it cleaned up some of those extended errors. Because yes, we want this piece here, but not this piece down here for the errors. Which means we have to return the original input stream. It's not expensive? Oh, that's good. Oh, much better, look at that. Now because we return the input, our errors are more concise. Oh, it's just an index into an arena. Oh, that's funny. Our list is actually wrong. Browns, yes, that's that, but our list is incorrect. Okay, so those are done. Now we're going to get into some, I guess, meatier things. Basic tests. Oh, I forgot about this. I have a commit hook because I wanted to stop screwing this stuff up. All this is a good test to make sure everything's working. Okay. We're going to do a little bit of a rebase here in a moment. Yeah. Fetch gdnative. Good. Good. Okay. We're going to come in here. Where's it? To the native class bits here. Got some fix me bits. Yes. I was thinking that the hints would be useful here. Because in these cases where basically you could say derive native class. I'll remove a couple of these elements for a moment. Because I think this builder is useful, but I think I was trying to modify the wrong builder at first. So I think there was a gdnative derive. Property args. I got maybe it is this. gdnative derive. And
Okay, this is epic.
Yeah. No, it's not there. Okay. Basically, derive is working there, doing that just fine. Let's copy this and make something work. Let's move this one. I don't like that name there. I'm gonna rename that. Okay, something simple. Because there is this other piece here that should pass. Okay. We're going to be, there's what, 4 different properties that you can set inside of here. So you could have the basic one, which basically does nothing. And then there's another one. There's a before get. I don't know, you can just pass in something here so that before the get happens, this gets called this method, or rather function. I forgot what the 4 are, but let's get it working with all of them. All right, before get, after get, before set, after set. Something like so. After. and after. Now in this case, we need those functions. Let's see, before get, after get. Now, oh, I did this wrong. Before get, before set, after set, after get. Let's put them in the same order. All right, and what do we expect those to look like? Property. So what's going on here? For before set, parse out the literal string from the pair. Check to see if it's a valid path expression. And then we can set, so we're replacing before set on there. And before set is used here. Where is that used? Let's start from here. Live, come into here. It's properties, before get, etc. Oh, they get stamped in here. That's right. So we end up creating these functions. This gets run before and after. Okay. Now this before set, we end up passing this and owner through. Okay, so that's what we're expecting. Let's go back to our test. We'll have a number of functions here. Function, test before get. This is going to be a foo, and owner is what? Alright, tref. Now, does that mean we get the value? No, we don't get the value. We just get to look at it before it's being set. So whatever this and owner are, we can do a pre-inspection and post-inspection. Because we should know what the ident is at that point. I can look at this.ident. Okay. After get. That might work. Yeah, that's already set up. Oh, the name. Test before set is defined multiple times. Oh, it is. All right. Again. Mismatch types. Expected oh, I see. That's interesting. Why are we not getting the mutable reference? I thought I saw the mutable in their function. So what is this here? So that's parse quote. Ah, so if it's a getter, we're just borrowing it. If it's a setter, then it's mutable. That does make sense. Missing fields bar, and two other fields in the initializer of foo. Really? Wait. Which test? derive property basic. I do not see why. It looks like bar is there. And two other fields in the initializer of foo. Oh, in the initializer of foo. If I read it here. Oh, of course, those are... We'll fix that. Okay. Oh, not that again. How do you do a git commit and skip the hooks? No verify. There we go. Okay. So far, so good. All right. So, what was it, a week and a half ago now? We had entered into this trying to add, or was it trying to add to what? To this. We wanted to add the ability to have hints. Because when you're building up one of these properties, it would be nice if Godot itself could take advantage of hints. So it could say, oh, this element should have a certain sort of hint in the UI, so when you go to find it, it looks for integers or files or directories. So you can see there are different types of hints that you could expose. And if we are looking at, what was it, property builder? Is that the same thing, just exported in many different places? Looks like it. Alright. So this with hint is what we're trying to fill in. So we want to have a with hint function that gets created if hint is provided. Hint should be some other function that provides the hint information, this hint here, that can then be provided to this other function. So if we look at these before get, etc., etc., right? Let's go back to the other file. We have this builder, and we're adding a property. We can see that there's this with default, etc. We probably want to do like a with hint here, because like this, with default, well, this one just takes a t. With hint, we have to provide it some value. We should be able to construct that. Now the way that this builder works, can we always provide that? Builder, add property. Yeah, with default, depending on if it's provided, does this. If we try to do that, what's going on with my network? Ah. Just one moment. I have to deal with the text message. Okay. All right. Give me a minute. I'll be right back. All right. Where to? That's right. We're trying to fill this with hint in. With default, with hint. We have to provide some value here. Now it's not going to be the default value that they're providing. So if that's the hint function, it's actually the hint function. I know that doesn't exist yet, but we'll add it. Where's config? Data properties. Property attributes args builder. Okay. What else? Okay. Let's go back to our test. Well, no. Let's check on the code that we're generating first. We end up calling with hint on that object and passing in the hint function. I mean, somebody could just provide, oh, we need some way of generating this, and that's going to come from a function. Okay. This should work, as we didn't modify any of the tests yet, so this shouldn't fail them. Good. Alright, there's our test hint. Now this has to return a certain kind of thing. And in this case, we look at the property builder with hint here. Set an editor hint. Where do we do that in the other code? Did we not have that with hint? I thought we used some hints. Oh, this is the wrong code base. Legacy. There we go. I guess technically this is going to be a string hint. It's a little strange. What is a string hint? This should fail because string hint, I don't think it's in the prelude. No, it's in native script init property. Alright, prelude native script init property. Or just remove the prelude. Alright, let's see if that helps out. Well, let's give it a test. checked fine. I was surprised with. Wow. We're going to copy that one, and we shall call it failed property hint. So what improvements are we making? There are fewer panics or unwraps in the macro creation code. And then also trying to improve the error messages. Also, for my own personal gain, trying to add hints to this so I can more easily provide hints to Godot from gdnative. And that's what actually started this whole thing. So we're gonna skip to the next song. This feels like one of those bots coming into the channel. Do you want to be famous? Do you want to be famous? Bots. So if we give this the wrong type, let's say we give this unit instead. Okay, that should give us some sort of compilation error. That, and we have to wire this one up to fail. Cargo, almost C-A-R-G-O, cargo room. That should absolutely be a tool there. I mean, that command there needs to be a vroom or cargo beep beep. I mean, that would be perfect. All right. Unused import, sure. Yeah, we can get rid of that. Type mismatch resolving. I don't know if we can actually check the return types of this. I don't think we can. But can we enforce that it's a certain kind earlier? I guess in this case, we should be able to just see what it is. All right, and we can get rid of these here for this test. I don't think that we can actually check the return type on this. It would be nice if we could point cargo room, the crate name is available. What about beep beep? Ever play that game with kids where you say, you know, what sound does a horse make? What sound does a car make? And they'll say beep beep or honk honk. We're doing that with my kid. back when we lived in the city, and the question was, you went through a whole bunch of this and started to run out of things. You said, what sound does a house make? I said, ding dong pizza. Also not taken, cargo beep beep. All right. Expected enum string hint found unit. Is there any way that we could push that up, push that a little further? I do not think there is, but let's go through the exercise of trying. Because we have with hint here. And we're going to be generating code. And all we have here is basically a string that represents their function name. So it doesn't look like it. Hmm. And that's probably good at the moment. I'm committed. Okay, I gotta go all the way back there. Good, get status. You saw some cargo plugin that was a pun. Oh yeah? Cargo run. Oh. Hmm. Oh, and what was the no verify? Okay. So now let's do a check to see. Cargo brrr is the thing. Can't do that on the stream. Where am I from? I'm from the United States in the Pacific Northwest. Oh, that sounds funny. All right. What's next? Let's go through. Let's do some checks here. And that's the car that drives across the terminal. That's cute. Look at that little. That is cute. MIT licensed. All right. Oops. There we go. Oh, that's right. We're going to come in here and look for more panic. Huh. Got some variant. Refer from. You're kidding. Terminal size, interesting. Control C. Wonder what Nix is for. Is that Unix? Some Unix wrapper? Ah. Variant and variant from. All right, let's look at variant. Parse derive input. And in this case, we panic. Who calls this? Parse drive data, here, here, and here. Let's change it. Result. That or sin. Error. Or token stream. I think it's better to return sin error and then, or our own error. Yeah, because then we don't have the two token stream from token stream. Using a whole core for this, but you have it running in a loop. Huh. I'm not in Bash. Is it called end? Huh. You want to keep it driving in your VSC whenever you stream? That's so funny. All right, we'll return error there. Do we have any other panics in here? We do. Variant convert. Okay. It's still. Do we have to escape it? No. That's so silly. Oh. Huh. So. Oh. All right, and we can't kill it. Oh no. No stopping it! No! What is it? Dash int? Ah, got it. Alright. Now even programming streamers need to stream at 60 FPS. Actually, I wasn't paying attention to what that looked like. But no. Expand to variant. Alright, derive to variant. Probably going to be the same thing. Result and sin error. And in this case, we can bail early. Expand to variant. Ah, and this needs to be okay. No panics in there. What about an unwrap or... No? Okay. Oh, see, and this one's got an unwrap on it. Alright. That seems to work, but where's this getting called from? There. Ah, here we go. There's some errors. Okay. Stream. We return stream. Otherwise, for error, do compile error, but into at that point. There we go. So we need to find some more of these macros. We look back up, where is it? gdnative. There we go. Got those elements. That's not what we're looking for, though. Why is that not, thought we had like a to variant from variant, the macro that helped you implement those. Oh, there we go. To variant. Why did I not see those when I clicked on macros? Oh, they're down below. Macros here and macros there. So we gotta basically create some tests for these, etc., and make sure they're working all right. I think we'll probably be doing this for maybe a day or two more, and then back into the game server actually using these changes. But I gotta start winding down, so if you want to catch me off stream, there's a Discord, and if you want any of these, or the big collection of the history of them, there's the YouTube ones. And if anybody would like to help me create playlists from these, I would greatly appreciate it, because there is so much content that I have not organized. And we'll pick up on this. We'll pick up on this tomorrow. Gotta get this committed. All right, looks like it's almost done building. Get that committed. Looks like it's just me and Gamozo doing Rust today. So we're going to raid in their direction. Unless somebody else would like to start up. You have forum using? Oh, nothing was committed. Okay, git add ... Where'd it go? No what? No verify. All right. Well, thank you all. And until next time, bye-bye.